Hello and a warm Collisions YYC. Welcome to my guest this morning, Miss Jennifer Lussier. How are you doing, Jennifer?
Hi, really good, Tyler. Thanks so much for having me on.
Oh, my pleasure. We're just joking. I'm legit curious. I haven't chatted with anyone. You're the COO at Platform Calgary. We're going to get into what's a platform in a second. I haven't chatted with anybody. I haven't been at an event. I've got a couple coming up. So I haven't been down there to the infamous parking garage on 9th for a while. So I'm really excited to kind of catch up and hear what's going on. So first things first, second things second. What is a Platform Calgary? Let's let the audience into the tent. If they don't know and they haven't been, let's give them a quick little description of it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we're so much more than a parkade.
You can slap me over the air on that for that one for sure.
Yeah, so we are the innovation hub for the tech sector here in the city of Calgary. So we have a 50,000 square foot innovation center. And if you have an idea or you're already working in tech, you're trying to scale your business, or you're looking for help in investment, in hiring, in access to market, or into mentorship and education or advisory, we're the place. We're open to the public. We run programming ourselves, and we have a partner network of over 120 other organizations, from post-secondaries to meetup groups to all the government organizations that help. And so entrepreneurs can come in, quickly find what they need and help move their business along faster. So,
and how I'm looking back, December 5th, 2019, I had Terry on the show. I think it was Terry Rock, who let me know about something that was going to happen, and it was going to be this thing called Platform, and it was going to be awesome. So when I think back from the journey of even myself in this podcast, Platform was, an idea of like, let's change the narrative in Western Canada that's been around. He told me like since the 80s. Yes. And this felt like this culmination of, hey, this is going to be, and I love seeing Terry go, hey, you did the thing. You told me you were going to do the thing. And then you led a group and obviously a whole team of people. How long has Platform been actually open to the public? Like, how long have the doors been open?
Yeah, it'll be we were kind of in and out of opening with COVID, but 2 years.
We can thank COVID for that roller coaster.
It'll be 2 years in June. We've had almost 50,000 people through the doors since then. And
a person per square foot. That's awesome.
Yeah.
1 to 1.
That's right. Yeah. So yeah, it's been a journey for sure.
And just for fun, how many events? Because I know quite a few of the team members there. When I heard the number of events that you typically hold, from like 6-person events to 500 or 1,000-person events, it kind of knocked me over on my feet, because events really kind of scare me because there's so many variables. How many events do you hold typically, like in a month, or give us a time frame? And because my memory is that the number was like obnoxiously high.
Yeah, no, it is. It's we've probably had we would have at least like 2 to 3 events per day. Which could be, the pitch stage activated at least once, some like large event or some kind of small thing. And then our classrooms, which are often filled with partners and workshops and things like that. So yeah, we have, I should have that number on hand.
Well, that's okay. Just for the audience, we don't prep. We have a conversation. We know what we're going to talk about. So I will be putting Jennifer on the spot from time to time. You could do the classic consultant. That's a great question. Let me get back to you on that one, Tyler.
Yeah.
Classic consultant response.
Talk to my people. Yeah. But no, it is. It's huge. And we have a small but mighty events team of just like 3 people. And
that hustle their little butts off. Yeah, absolutely.
They do. Yeah. Yeah, they do. Yeah. We also offer up the space to a lot of our nonprofit partners. And so over the past year and a half, we've given away over about $1 million value of event space to all of our nonprofit partners. So taking a market rate of what we would normally charge for event space at the center. And then, so it's a huge community. It's a huge support for all the nonprofit partners that are kind of in tech and adjacent to tech, that we were able to offer them space for free and some event infrastructure.
If I just landed here from some other planet, part of the world, and I said, in an innovation center, what's an innovation center? What goes on there? It maybe seems grass level, but I'm curious. I never like to skim over. I never like to make any assumptions. Being curious and professing my ignorance has got me opened a lot of doors. How would you describe an innovation center to somebody who maybe hadn't been into the center yet?
Yeah, well, it's kind of like a library for tech, a central library, but for tech.
Okay.
There, you can come in, you can grab a coffee or like a light bite to eat. You can hang out in the public space. You can see what's happening on the pitch stage. So it's purpose-built, designed to have people that don't know anything about tech to come into the space, understand who's who in the sector, and participate in an event or meet somebody. The whole center is open and really designed for creating collisions.
Which is kind of, not to change your words, but kind of the town square, if you will.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay. And then kind of going through as you kind of walk through, you can attend an event, you can sit down and meet people. You can go through a partner area where you can talk directly with some of these partners that are supporting entrepreneurs in tech. So if you're historically in Calgary, there's all these organizations working, but you have to kind of find them independently, and they're all under these different rocks almost. And so what we've been able to do is
there's an amazing amount of resources, but navigating it, if you're from the outside and you don't know, can be notoriously tricky. I talk to people all the time, but I still go like, oh, I hadn't heard of that. Or not that I'm in the know, but I'm talking to people in the sector, and all of a sudden there's little Venn diagrams floating all around, and sometimes they're silos. Actually, they're actually not.
Oh, they totally are.
Each other.
Yeah. Like I lucked out, and when I got into tech, I met somebody, and that was my door in. And so I knew someone that knew someone.
Calgary, the Alberta way, right there, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So kind of coming through the Innovation Hub, you'd be able to see all the different organizations that are there. There's meeting rooms. You can have. You can bring in your team and use it as a third space. We have companies that are incubating within the Innovation Hub. So over an 18-month period, they can hang out there. They can meet with advisors. They can meet with partners. They can pitch for investment. They can find people to hire. They can help work on their business model to get more customers.
All of the myriad of things and all the hats you need to wear when you're at that
exactly
stage.
Yeah,
versus just like you said, spending all your time figuring out where to even go for the resource. Is this sorry, this may be a silly question. I should know this. Is this a for-profit or a non-profit operation?
We are a nonprofit.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
I was like, my mind was like, wait a second. Do I know the answer to that question?
Yeah, which is a unique, it's a nice, neutral, Switzerlandy place to be for us. We can,
yes,
we can help founders. We don't charge, we charge very little for some programming, but most of our programs are free. We don't take equity. We are very much focused on the founder first, which is, there's lots of amazing for-profit accelerators out there that, either charge or take equity. And then at the end of a process, put those founders in front of investors and help them, advance their business in that way. And so platform programming is slightly different in that we're we don't take.
What changes it changes the agenda of what you're like, which I'm going to like, what are your KPIs? It changes your outcomes. If it's like, well, we need to bring this many people into our incubator so that we can invest in X and get a return of Y, where that's not your model. So what are your KPIs when you look at like, we're 2 years in and quote unquote, this is working? What are some of the what are some of the things you look at and maybe then how have those evolved also?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, number one with the entrepreneur at the center of our holistic circle, we look to how many entrepreneurs we can serve in a year. When we were, before the Innovation Hub opened, we were running maybe, 100 entrepreneurs through programming in a year.
Okay.
In 2019, we ran 300. In 2023, we ran 1,700. So significant.
So that was a big year.
Yeah. So our whole shift has been to how can we serve at scale, still providing like quality connections and programming, but becoming a lot more around navigating and wayfinding and bringing in external resources to help these entrepreneurs scale instead of trying to just have our small team do it ourselves directly. So that's a big one for us is how many entrepreneurs can we help? We track all kinds of things, investment, numbers of hires, revenue, like all the kind of ECDev stats that are around startups. But we also work very much in advance of company formation. So if you're a student or you're a career changer or you're someone that's new to Calgary or new to Canada and you're looking to kind of get in.
The back of the napkin phase, right?
Yeah, very, very top of funnel, which is, I'm going to take an event or I'm going to take a program like Startup 101, for example, to learn what is tech and how do I connect in Calgary. And maybe that person then meets somebody at that event and then takes a a product class or joins a peer-to-peer group or comes back in another way and then maybe finds a co-founder and then starts a company. It's a very non-linear path is my point to, and that stuff's super hard to track. But we do also, KPIs for us are how many people can we get through the door for the first time, and understanding and engaging in all the opportunity that is kind of in the innovation center and with the programs and services that us and our partners provide. And then we have other KPIs, of course, that are just around the innovation center itself. So, events and attendance at events and, revenue from that, sponsorship, a whole myriad of other, metrics that we work to drive, new sources of revenue to help with our sustainability model, because we are funded through kind of all three levels of the government. And then we have a large team that focuses on private revenue as well. So those are some of the KPIs that we
are you
track.
finding at that private pay level of the individual, whether it's the corporate sponsor, is there a willingness to pay? Like, I know there's always a challenge when you're like, oh, it's free, it's accessible. Oh, whoa, I have to pay. Like, has that been a journey in terms of just helping the market understand, oh, if I pay a little bit here, that actually contributes to just trying to understand that balance of everything's awesome until you're like, is this something you would pay for? Or I'm so just curious about how that's balanced out or how it's evolving. I'm assuming that's an ever moving thing.
Yes. Yeah, it has been a challenge. But we've had some real champions along the way with us. So KPMG, first penguin in the water, coming in, knowing that, we work in very early stage. They've put their ignition center right in the innovation hub, which is where they work on all kinds of things around digital transformation, corporate innovation, and then also have that bridge and link between startup land and more corporate or enterprise Calgary. And so that model was a very bold move. They came in, huge partner for us, builds our credibility as well and trust with, like what is tech to the rest of the oil and gas Calgary, right? So partners with National Bank as well. So two huge anchor partners
those are some nice logos to hang on the wall. Absolutely.
Yeah. And more so than that, we don't look for partners that are transactional. And so those logos on walls are actually what they represent. Yeah. Yeah. And so, but it is, I would say, so having, anchors like that. And then, last year we ran a thing called Innovation Week, which runs every year. It'll be in November again this year. And we had, I think, over 50 different sponsors that came to the table for that in like smaller dollar amounts or ranging vary of dollar amounts. But sponsorship is hard. And the ROI is also sometimes challenging because, again, early stage, the ROI may be, somebody, it's not always like a fine line of, oh, okay, this sponsorship dollar is going to, produce this type of result.
Yeah.
But
sponsorship can be tricky at the best of times. There does have to be a belief, i.e. the sponsor, of the long game and what they're trying to play. And it isn't, the old joke, I put in a quarter, where's my gumball? It doesn't necessarily work well. A lot of marketing doesn't work that way, unfortunately. Yeah.
And there is I think we're finally starting to cast a bit of a shadow and get some, obviously all the news on Calgary and tech and Alberta and tech and from a national perspective. And so brand affinity is starting to, be on our side a little bit we still get a ton of inbound interest from, across Canada and elsewhere.
I was going to ask who do you serve? Like, obviously you're based in Calgary, but I've chatted with Terry before and like different organizations landing here from other parts of the world. Platform being a safe space for those companies to land or to move or to connect into the market. If you looked at your kind of balance of who you're talking to on a daily basis, how much of it is it outside our market? Because I love telling a good Calgary story, especially people like, what Calgary? Oh, that wasn't on my radar, which you don't hear that as much anymore. Calgary's on a lot of people's radar, or certainly Western Canada is, Alberta.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. People moving to Calgary.
In droves from what I've heard from the housing situation.
Yes, absolutely. I'd say we're probably, I don't know, I can't be really quoted on this, but we probably serve directly like 50% of our, anyone that's building a tech startup or looking to get into tech in Calgary specifically. I would say is about 50 to 60% of our kind of, the day-to-day people that are coming through.
And again, we're not quoting, but it gives us kind of an idea of the balance of kind of where that flow is.
Yeah. And then we get a ton of inbound interest from investors and from other, companies moving, like opening satellite offices in Calgary that may have HQ elsewhere. We run start a visa program, so internationally we are directly pulling from around the world and running programs that support entrepreneurs that have scalable businesses that are landing in Calgary, and so that's a big piece for us as well.
Is there a challenge ever with the fact that, like, I could go to an event, see that event, and think that platform was X. And then I could go to another event and think that it was Y. Then I could talk to somebody who was hanging out there having coffees and networking and think it was something else. Like, how challenging has it been, like, as because I know you have your marketing back, getting clear on we're this, but yet it means all of these things, just from a messaging perspective. That
oh
can
my
be
God,
tricky.
yeah. It's super top of mind, right? And we have so many different audiences, each with their own message. Like, there's the client, the ultimate client is the entrepreneur. However, and to make that happen, we have to also support the investors that are going to be pointed at those entrepreneurs. Our government funders that, help us, significantly do the work that we do are very important. They need to understand what we're doing, why we're doing it, which is very different messaging than, when you're talking to someone who's like, oh, is this a problem worth solving? Should I come in and take a course and maybe start a company? Yeah. The partnerships that we have, they're all working with their own agendas to drive their own support, the way that they support the tech sector here as well. So there's different messaging there. We have donors, and that we had a $5.5 million philanthropic campaign that we kicked off when we kind of broke ground on the Innovation Center. And those are champions of, those are, entrepreneurs serial entrepreneurs in Calgary that are champions of keeping tech alive and growing and well in Calgary, and keeping their children in the city as well. And so there's the messaging there too. So there's a lot.
That's a lot of stakeholders.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then depending on where you're at as an entrepreneur, you could be literally just, here's my napkin with my idea, or I'm scaling. I'm about to hire my first CPO, or I'm trying to hire a VP of sales, or I'm trying to export to this country. And so there's a very wide range of messaging there too. Like, it depends what shoes you're wearing, I guess.
Yes, what shoes? I like the shoes versus what hat. But I did hear loud and clear, the entrepreneur is at the center of everything that you do, and how is that going to how's it going to impact or detract from the entrepreneur and all the things they're going to need, from napkin phase, right, to scale up, to relocate to Western Canada and needing a safe place or a resource? Because again, Calgary is very inclusive once you're in, but from the outside, the wall can look tall, like anything, right? It's easier to say how inclusive and how small town we are when you're in the ecosystem, when you have you can pick up the phone or click on LinkedIn and have 7 people offer to help you.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's the whole point of the place, right? It's open, it's designed to create collisions. That's not lost on me that we're on the Collisions YYC podcast here, but
I appreciate the reality. We've read any of the stories about Pixar, but where you put the bathroom matters, right? Because you got to get people to bump into each other.
To the point where we've actually when we've had multiple events happening in the center, and if we think that the audiences might at the same time, if they might have something in line or an interest, or it could be a complete mashup, we actually have created cocktail receptions, or hey, let's put these 2 events beside each other and help these people connect. So that's a lot of what we do is just like helping to set the table for interactions, and then getting out of the way. Like, we're not trying to, engineer every single connection that happens there. We're trying to just set the table for it.
Well, that would be too exhausting and probably beyond the scope of the capability.
Absolutely.
But a little bit of the matchmaker, and again, you're creating an environment where people can collide and go, oh, hey, and I've met a handful of entrepreneurs on the show, quite a few, and some of them like, oh, I met my current business partner or my CEO or my co-founder at an event, and we were both trying to solve something, and we said, hey, what if we got together? And I was always impressed at just a few of the people that I met that ran into each other at these types of events, whether it be a platform or Startup TNT, or so many different groups that sometimes there's the group and then they're hosting it at Platform. And how, like, that always amazed me of like, oh, wow, that's a great way to come together. We're all here, we're pushing, we're trying to figure something something out, and we might meet another person that we didn't know before that might become our future co-founder. That's a pretty cool journey.
If you think about this is kind of one way I described it before, but the plus 15 system and the 9 blocks that are energy and oil and gas in Calgary, and the interactions in the business and the things that happen in those plus 15s, it's very much like that. And that's the kind of some people, the light goes on when I describe it that way, in that everybody knows who everybody is and they're running into people, and it's very it's just kind of a
that's been
infrastructure
years,
for those things.
Maybe a little bit less now than it was, but just spend your day hanging out in the plus 15, literally doing deals. Like I've heard that story from many people. And what's the statement? Innovation happens within 15 feet of the street kind of thing, in the first 2 floors of where people are actually interacting and mingling, and the plus 15 being an example of that.
Yeah. Although we have had lots of complaints that there's no plus 15 attaching platform to the rest of that. So
you're a little bit on the out, but that whole part of town with what's happening at Arts Commons, the Calgary, the library, there's a lot of cool stuff happening over there as it spreads as downtown spreads its wings a little bit. I like to think of it that way. And in a few years, that looking at the renderings for what's happening at Art Commons, and it's crazy what's going to be. It's going to be a whole other level.
Amazing. East Village is really, we've got the National Music Center and they have, of course, the Event Center, and it's really it's a nice little corner of downtown to be in.
Kind of against all odds, if you've been in Calgary for a while, there was so much kerfuffle about what was going to go on in that area, but they've just gone forward, and it's slowly becoming what it will be. I know there's a very, very deliberate long-term vision for that area that's, I think, really taking shape.
Yeah.
So you've been at Platform 5 years. How have you seen, even the last couple of years, what's been the journey? Lots of startups, lots of encouragement, some maybe, funding's gotten tighter. What's your kind of point of view? I love the armchair view. Everyone looks at the elephant from a different side. What has been the startup ecosystem journey over the last few years? And are you optimistic about it? Have you seen some challenges? What's your point of view?
Yeah, for sure. I think, lots has changed in the last 5 years, I think. And, of course, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid here, but I do feel like
you should be. If you're not encouraged by it, the rest of us aren't going to be, don't stand a chance.
But being kind of at the center, at the, working, standing within the hub, where we have literally centralized, I'd say 95% of the resources that someone might need in either entering and or scaling in tech. I do think that we've been able to accomplish that. So making it faster for an entrepreneur to find what they need. We see the benefits of that every day. As far as, the volume of entrepreneurs starting up is, like I said, from 300 to 17, and that's without, it's not like we have marketing dollars to go and acquire these customers.
Right.
They're coming to us, and so just organic growth has been amazing to see, and the level of sophistication of those entrepreneurs or would-be entrepreneurs coming in is 10 times better than it was 5 years ago. So students coming out of university with deep entrepreneurial education, where 5, 7, 8 years ago, a lot of those programs were in their infancy. And so we see, more entrepreneurs, better kind of out of the gate than for sure than I ever was. That's for sure.
Jen, we're not going to get into age here, but entrepreneur was a dirty word when I was younger. You went to do that when you failed at all the other things. That was not celebrated it has become, for sure.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
I love it a lot, but man, it was not the way it was not positioned then like the way it is now.
I totally agree. I feel the same way. Yeah, and then I'd say so definitely seeing that's positive, and obviously affirming to see. And I know Calgary is that entrepreneurial spirit, and I've been here since the 70s, and I've been an entrepreneur since the 90s, and so it's great to see this spirit. It just continues and rolls, and it's great to see it in tech. And then I'd say challenges, our programming is focused on those early startups. So, just iterating and trying to figure out if an idea is
they're not even early. They're not even pre-seed. They're almost pre-idea.
Yeah.
or ideas floating around. Ideas plural, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so, challenges there are, how early seed capital, and how do you make connections? How can an entrepreneur, if they need some seed capital, so gap in early stage funding, and then later stage, I do think we still have the how do we keep these scaling companies here, and how do we get so it's kind of at both ends of the spectrum on that. Those are some of the things.
Talk to me about talk to me about the diversity that you see. Like so many factors, that's a broad term, but is entrepreneurship the inclusive thing that I want it to be in my mind? Does it give everybody the opportunities, gender, all the things? We don't need to get into breaking down how to define diversity.
Yeah.
But is it inclusive in that way, just by who you're seeing, the variety, the mix, the sheer different sectors being represented, however you want to say that?
Yeah.
Are we doing okay there? Like, are we winning in that department from your perspective?
I would say we're progressing. I wouldn't say we're winning. Yeah.
Okay. Winning sounds like it's completed. We've checked the box, which is, that's a dangerous way to say it.
Yeah.
Thank you for correcting that one.
Oh, no. Yeah. I think that we, there's every age, race, gender, background. We see kind of everything in our programming, in our events, and et cetera. But I still do think that there are many challenges for a newcomer, a woman of color, or to be able to have the ability to, take time off of work and start, to not have an income. Yeah, how do I take care of my children?
Yes, there's being entrepreneurial, and then there's being an entrepreneur. There's often a steady paycheck tied to one and not tied to the other.
Yeah, and so we see entrepreneurs with incredible resilience that are, trying to start something off the side, working a job, raising a family, and doing it all at the same time. So I think it's not
for the weak of heart. It's not for the weak of constitution. For sure.
Yeah, no, for sure. And so could we be doing better there? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, childcare, stipends for, you're in a program, you can get a small income while you work on your idea. Grants that help, certain, underrepresented groups. Like there's lots there. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's great to see, it's always top of mind for us, and in trying to, but it still can feel like I feel like I was privileged to be able to, work in a startup. And I mean, ultimately I got a salary from it, but I didn't for, the first 6 months. So and I was able to do that. And is that because of my, I'm a white woman,
right?
That, still had challenges as a woman, but, I'm way ahead of someone else that, maybe just be new here but yeah. So
no, that's very
mixed
fair.
response
and often,
there, I guess.
And often, you're looking back, I realize now those opportunities, but sometimes that just feels like the world you lived in. Like they're taking that moment of understanding, especially in the role you are now, where you can look out and go, oh, okay, I appreciate that I had this experience, and I appreciate there might've been some factors. How do we then richen that table for individuals that maybe don't come from the same or have the same factors that I had? But when you're in it, you're just in it. Sometimes you don't, the fish doesn't always know that they're in water, right?
That's true.
Water.
That's true.
What do you mean water? It just becomes the world you're in. And I think there's so many opportunities now for us to see the perspective and go, oh, why don't you just do it the way I did it? Oh, well, there were some things that I had that maybe you don't have. So how do we then create that with an organization like Platform?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Do you one day take over the whole parking garage? There's a weird question for you. For anyone who's been there, it's very convenient because parking is right there. But it's also, I've had people say, oh, isn't that place a parking garage? I opened with that joke. I'm circling back on it. Because as marketers, awareness, tell them. And then when you think people have figured it out, retell them again because they probably don't know what you're doing.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. I mean, ideally, the whole building can be converted into commercial space fairly easily. Although it's hard to get my brain around exactly how that would work.
I'm not always a visionary when it comes from that. I'm great at critiquing things when they're done, but I'm like, okay, so we're going to reno this and it's going to be what after? I'm like, okay, can someone show me an image of this?
But I mean, that's the ultimate dream, right? We could fill every floor with, we could, yes. Short answer, yes.
The ramps would make it fun. I think there would be some longboarding in there going on there, maybe some biking. I don't know. It could be dangerous.
Yeah.
I used to have a longboard in my office back when we had an office, but it was flat. I could only get myself into so much trouble in the hallway.
Yeah.
Anyways, sorry. I completely digressed. So from your perspective, just getting started, like clearly sounds like nothing but optimism, and everyone I talk to at Platform, the energy but when you look to the future, you look out the next 5 years, are any kind of landmarks or things that you look out and go, yeah, we're pointing the boat at that horizon, or we're kind of pointing it over there. And it might be like, there's the for sure goals and there's the moonshots. Anything you want to share that you see from the future, we'll pull out the crystal ball for the last few minutes.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, we can do, we do entrepreneurial programming, mentorship, education. We do that stuff in our sleep. Like we've been doing it for,
we're good at it.
Right?
Like
yeah.
that.
Like we got that.
It. Yeah. And I'll own it. I like a little confidence. We're too humble sometimes here in Western Canada.
And so, that machine, that engine is running and it's working. And as it evolves, like I said, as entrepreneurs get more sophisticated, we will get more sophisticated in what we provide there.
It's a balance. It's a balanced relationship, right?
Yeah.
As the ask goes up, the supply, and then you push it, and then they rise to the opportunity or the occasion.
Yeah, and to kind of to go like to, I guess, level set, Communitech in Kitchener-Waterloo area is a model that we've followed and.
I've heard that before.
And really, modeled a lot of the Platform Innovation Center off of. But we've advanced it a little bit from that in the way that we work with partners, and it's not like
well, you can only emulate someone else so much because you're still you and they're still them, right?
Yeah.
You can learn lessons and things are going to show up for you that are like, oh, this is what we believe. We love that idea and it inspired us and we took it in our way.
Which and so we're about, we should say we're about like 10 years behind where they were when they started, when Communitech was started.
Okay.
Grassroots organization, member driven. And we've since, taken that same structure and will be the exact same. So tech companies as members driving the voice and the needs of the sector in a member-driven impact organization. That's where we're headed. And so back to we've got the entrepreneurial programming figured out. We have early work in progress into the investment piece that is critical for entrepreneurs.
Got to put some gas in the tank, if you will.
Yeah. And then what I see as one of our gaps is just deeper connection to industry, where we really are connected. Avatar Innovations, for example, is doing amazing things in innovation in the energy sector here.
Kevin and the team over there, that's got its own little power system. That's a little force, gravitational pull, I should say.
Yeah. And so I see us really in the sectors that drive Alberta's economies, right? Obviously, oil and gas and ag, and emerging ones like fintech and all this stuff that's happening.
Like there's so much, and I love that we've become known for slowly but steadily more things. Than just oil and gas.
Yeah, but I see our ties, connections into industry, and deeper connections into corporate Calgary on our horizon as far as what's next for us.
If you were going to give a shout out challenge, call them out, however you want to phrase it, diplomatically, of course, to corporate Calgary. Do they need be careful with shooting. They should get more involved. Do they need to get more involved? Do they need to take more risk? Is there something you see from the outside of like, wow, if we could plug in more companies that had this type of attitude, whatever it might be, that would make a huge difference based on the side of the coin you're looking from?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, part of our, our partnership with KPMG is to do exactly that, right? Like we have startups that are here that can solve problems over here.
It's often that gap is wide in between.
It's very
wide. Even
wide.
The ability for a small company to work with a large company, just logistically, one will crush the other.
Yeah, and it's impossible. Like, to find a customer in your own backyard here is, so many startups and scaling companies that are here don't even have customers in Calgary. And so,
which I don't like, but I also like because it means that we're getting on the radar somewhere else. And are we overlooking, familiarity can breed contempt. That's an extreme way to say it.
Yeah.
But sometimes I've talked to so many companies, like how many clients do you have in Calgary? They're like, well, maybe you should ask the question of how many clients we have in Canada.
Yeah.
But we've got companies in Europe, and I get it, different sectors, but yeah, I think we could be better at that as well. I agree with you.
Yeah. Yeah. And then another, just on that longer term horizon, I think is getting to a financial, like a sustainability model where, with industry in the room, we can be more 50-50 public private and not so reliant on government funding. Not that obviously it allows us to do all of the work that we do, but
no, it's not a criticism, but the more self-sufficient and the less you can,
right. And our tax dollars going to this that can be matched by industry dollars, just makes sense to me. So that's my personal goal, but it's getting a little
what
more.
impact can we have, and how long can we do it for? And the more sustainable that it's better for everyone.
Ideally, that thing starts to just pay for itself and fills with, every floor with whatever a sector, an anchor tenant that is, from somewhere else in Canada or North America, or, and then we take the spot next to it and we put residential that are, for founders that are coming to Canada.
Truly entrepreneurs in residence. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. And then we put a daycare in the bottom, and then we put
now we're getting the Jen, the dreamer on the, I love it. Okay, great. That's exactly how it starts. Well, Jen, I know, and you've mentioned to it, and of course I creeped on your LinkedIn profile, as we all are, professional creepers.
Yes.
Background as an entrepreneur, background in rolling up your sleeves and getting it done. Any advice or anything? I always like to, the mandatory advice question. Anything you would share out there, or the challenges you see that, it's a tough, from back of a napkin to any degree of commercialization, any degree of funding, it's a tough road, and it's getting easier, but it's not easy. Let's be clear. There's a difference between it's getting easier and easy. Anything that you would share, anything just from your journey and your experience? Obviously, you came to this role with some bumps and bruises, probably from being an entrepreneur yourself.
Good, yeah. So advice is to someone who's just kind of starting out on their journey, or
absolutely, yeah. Like just things that you're like, hey, just FYI, this is probably what you're going to see. This is probably going to happen.
I think, I think the thick skin. I don't know if that's something you develop, the calluses, but I think it's definitely something that you need to grow. I think what I learned, one thing I learned was around building my network, which I think I would have started way earlier
mission critical.
than I did. It's something I work at every day. I think it's super, not in a way that's calculated, but in that, working to develop genuine connections with people across a myriad of sectors, of stages, of ages, whatever. Because I think that the more people you talk to, the more opportunity you may have in the future, right? As far as with the product you're trying to sell, or trying to find a co-founder, or trying to, all of these things. I think that networking is, like having a deep network is one of the greatest assets you can have, and it's mostly free. You can mostly do it. It's a little bit
of effort and energy.
And But it also allows you, an opportunity to talk about your business idea over and over and over again, and practice it, like it's pitching essentially. And the more you talk to, you never know what you're going to get back, and you're always going to get a diverse viewpoint back. And so to me, that's like something I wish I had started much, much earlier in my career.
I'm currently having some uncle frustration. I have a 21-year-old nephew who's getting involved in the trades and wants to be a finishing carpenter, and so of course I reach out to my network because I'm Uncle Tyler and I'm excited to share. And I reach out and go, oh hey, I won't use his name because I'll be respectful. I've got this is what this guy does. Oh no, I'm good right now. I've got a job. I don't need a job right now. I'm like, I know you don't need a job, but he's happy to chat with you. This guy's been doing it for 40 years, does exactly what you said you want to do. No, I don't need to talk to him right now. I'm good. And I was like, my head was going to pop off. I couldn't deal with it. I was like, what? And, it kind of got to like, I get it. Stop pushing. Every parent is rolling their eyes going, oh, welcome to the game, Tyler. And I'm like, but just sit, just talk. And no. So I get being deliberate, but you don't always have to have an agenda. Just have a conversation. It's going to pay off in the long run. I'm speaking directly to my 21-year-old nephew right now. This is my cry for help.
Well,
all the parents are like, sometimes you just have to let them do it on their own, Tyler.
I have a 24 and a 21-year-old daughter. And some of those things sound
but if I look back on my successes and my journey, and even just through this and how you and I got stopping having an agenda and just the goal of like, I'm going to meet this person, I'm going to chat with them, and something will come up. And great, it's good to have an agenda, but don't underestimate the value of just meeting people. And also in Western Canada, you and I joked about this earlier, the willingness of people to help you is bar none better. Like, I've lived in a lot of places, and your circle or your immediate network will help you, but here a stranger will help you. It is something I think we should be very disciplined not to lose. And I think it is a superpower in Western Canada that I think it might be hard at first, but it's sitting there.
Yeah. Well, and I think a way to do that too is actually what I also would have done more of is earlier in my career is volunteer. And, you can volunteer and learn something about an industry you're trying to maybe work your way into. But it's another way to develop relationships and like get on a board. I'm trying to, one of my latest things is looking to start doing board work. So I've got lots of years of nonprofit kind of board work, but I'm still at this, there's a cliff between me, or there's a chasm between me and an actual, board seat, right? And so there's things like that I think you start earlier in your career that you're giving back and you're also gaining at the same time, right? So I think
that is such a great example of like, it's never done. You're always on the journey. You're always like, okay, where am I going to go? Where am I going to challenge myself? Who am I going to run into? And I have so many friends that I have some friends that started, that wasn't even on my radar, being in boards or getting involved in that way, or just formal mentorship or like relationships. When I was younger, I was so busy running on my own treadmill. I didn't necessarily take time to look at some of the other treadmills, and that it can be a trap. It worked, but in what areas could it have worked better if I would have put myself out there a little bit more? The joys of having a few years behind you can look back and go, oh, maybe I could have done that differently.
I would have done so much differently. Yeah.
Fair enough. But that's a whole other podcast. I don't know if we have time, or the audience is like, oh, okay, listen, you two. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing. I love the platform story. It was great for me to kind of re-plug in and kind of hear where you guys are just continuing to do more of what you set out to do, which I also love. Terry told me, we're going to do this thing, Tyler. It's going to be this thing, and it's going to be on 9th. And it was the vision. So just to be able to be there along and just have these conversations, it's been really fun.
Thank you so much.
And a community and a very enthusiastic community member.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been great and great to share the platform story. It's been a ride, and so proud to be associated with that organization and to look at the things that we've done there. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. PlatformCalgary.com. Check out the website. As you heard, there is endless amounts of opportunities, and just go down and have a coffee. Book a meeting there and just get a coffee and go hang out and explore the space. Yes, you don't have to have a napkin idea. You can just be curious and go have a coffee and hang out and see who you run into.
That's a good way to put it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen.
Okay. Thanks, Tyler.